that good? Are you recording? Yeah, that's longer than we thought. So there's a couple things you can do when you're figure eighting that are going to really change your success rate when you're musky fishing. One of the easiest things to change that I think a lot of people overlook is just your leader size. So when I'm musky fishing, especially with blades, I like to use a short leader. Shorter leader, 10, 12 inches. Even under that, I'll use a lot of times if I know I'm only going to be throwing blades, I'll put on an 8-incher. And the whole reason is when you're pulling that bait in, the fish needs to be able to turn in the figure eight. And I think when that leader length is too long, that fish doesn't have the time to turn around in that small of a circle. A shorter leader is going to give you more control with exactly what that lure is doing. It's going to be closer to the rod tip, and when you move the rod in your 8 or in your circle, it is going to be closer to that rod tip and it's going to move farther. If you have too much slack in the line and you're trying to figure eight, the lure is lagging behind your rod and the lure is not going in as big a circle as it could be with a shorter leader. The other thing with that short leader, the first turn I always believe is the most important turn. So when you coming in, pulling your bucktail or whatever lure you're pulling, when you turn, I like to push the rod to my left a little bit because it's going to give me more room to sweep that to the right. And when I do, that first turn isn't so much of an 8 or a swooping circle, it's more of a 7. It's a 7, and that normally is where your hit's going to end up. Your hit's going to be that first turn. The fish is just following your bait and doing the exact same thing for 50 yards, and you get it to that turn, it does something drastically different, and the fish comes unglued and eats it. The other part that you need to think about, so if the fish gets through the first turn, you do your 7, you go out, it's a big wide sweeping turn outside, and that sweeping turn doesn't necessarily mean slow down. People talk about hanging it in the corner all the time. What that actually means, in my eyes, is turning that bait, getting it low, throwing it up high in the corner so that fish, as it turns, you made one big long turn, that fish comes up, and as it's turning again, it went from deep, now it's right above it, right in a perfect strike zone for that fish and coming across its face. That's what, to me, hanging it means. It doesn't mean slow down, it doesn't mean throw it in that corner and let it sit there so a fish can eat it. It means go deep, hang it high in the corner, and when you do that, you're going to be coming right across the middle of that fish's face. Lastly, just because it's called a figure eight doesn't necessarily mean you need to do a figure eight. I quite often will just end up going in one big circle. These fish are large, they need the room to turn around, and if a circle makes it easier for that fish to turn around, make a circle. A lot of people will figure eight. I'm not against it. I've caught fish doing the figure eight. Bring it out, figure eight it back, but it just is creating smaller circles. Muskies are large fish. If you want them to have the best chance of hitting that bait, that fish needs to be able to turn around. If they're turning too quick, they're not going to eat your bait. Give this a shot. Get out there, catch some muskies, put them in the boat. Good luck.